Welcome back to 2W Conversations, the podcast where eavesdropping on us isn't only okay, but encouraged. My name's Danielle, and today I'm joined by Colleen, our Manager of Client Success, and Barbie, our Sales Coordinator. Today's topic is about something we all have in common, and that's that we came to 2W outside of the tech industry. The goal of this conversation is to encourage people to make the leap into tech, because in simple terms, we love it. And with this industry, there's always room for more. I feel like the tech industry can be kind of intimidating when you don't have any background, and I think us three are great representations of proving that to be false. We have a good mix here of different positions and industries we came from, as well as what point in our career we made the switch. So I was working professionally for only 2 years before coming here. I worked at a motorsports dealership. So we sold everything from snowmobiles to jet skis, ATVs, all those fun recreational toys. But if you asked me a year ago if I was intimidated making this dramatic of an industry switch, I probably would be nodding my head. So as we get this talk going, I'm a good reference point for someone who had no background with technology whatsoever, besides my daily use of it. And I'm here to say that I made it. All is good. Colleen, however, she had some tech background, just in a completely different manner. She's a good example of making the switch later on in her career as well, and being very, very successful at it.
Well, thank you, first of all.
Oh, of course.
I was in education for 13 years. So I started as a kindergarten teacher in a kindergarten classroom and worked in elementary education for probably 7 years before I moved in kind of different roles in the education world. As I was there, technology just continued to evolve into a point where we needed to bring it into the classroom and not only use it ourselves as teachers, but also utilize it with our students and start teaching them how to utilize technology as well. So while I was in my teaching career, we moved from, the traditional computer lab and typing classes to every kid has a device in front of them, and how can we make these technology devices useful and actually transformative in the classroom? So I'm a person who embraces change. I liked using technology in the classroom with my kids because it allowed me a lot of different avenues I did not have previous to that. And so because I was able to do that, and it was something that a lot of teachers struggled with, it was something that allowed me to get into leadership positions inside of the education world. So from the classroom, I moved to be an instructional coach. And then from there, I moved in to be the coordinator of digital innovation and technology, not only helping the teachers embrace technology and use them to transform their classrooms, but also helping students, parents, all of the above understand what one-to-one devices would look like. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So had a little bit of tech background at the end of my career in the education world. And that's actually what helped me sort of make the leap outside of education to say, hey, I wonder if there's other things I can do now that I have this niche and I'm excited about it. I feel like there's more capacity for growth.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the education system, I feel like, is a prime example of how, like you said, how technology has evolved, and now we've incorporated it into schools. When I was in grade school, we didn't have that position. Like, we didn't have a teacher a role that took that on. So
yeah.
That was cool to see.
It changed fast.
Yeah.
And then with COVID, it changed even faster.
Right.
So, I was there through that whole process to day one in the classroom, no technology whatsoever, not even like a smart board.
Right.
To then we're totally virtual in terms of learning during COVID. So it was crazy, and how fast it changed and how fast teachers and kids had to adapt. Mm-hmm. And parents, that's hard.
Yeah. Smart boards are so nostalgic for me. So I remember we were fighting over who could do like the orientation.
Yeah.
And it would rotate every week. Okay, so we have myself with no background whatsoever, Colleen with a role that's involved with technology but in a different manner, and then we have Barbie. So Barbie, you came to us with some helpful knowledge, but not in the obvious manner of technology experience, but instead with manufacturing, which is our biggest industry that we serve here at 2W.
I was a quality manager for an engineering company. We basically made built-to-order products for whatever our customer was looking for. So we had train cars built from the ground up, parts of ships like in the Navy. We had a lot of parts on the Oshkosh Defense, JLTV trucks like that. So we did a huge, vast, there's tons of items that we did. It could be really small, like I said, train items that pretty much filled up an entire department. But Yeah, there was not a lot of, you would think that, or in a company like that, there'd be lots of technology or learn about it, but no, not that much. No. But no, definitely the products we built was pretty cool. And they had a lot of technology in them, but my job being the quality manager, there wasn't a lot of technology involved in that other than getting on Zoom meetings with other people from different locations that I was doing audits with. That was about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like video conferencing too is kind of one of the baselines that now we see a lot more, but 10 years ago, like that was what was crazy. Like, oh, you're video conferencing?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
And I do want to say too that we three aren't just like the oddballs or anything. There are a lot of people specifically at 2W who came from other industries and have seen success. Like Alex, our solutions engineer, he came from banking. I know Colleen came from recruiting agency. And I think we have a couple more too. But so when you think back to when you found these roles or when you decided to make the switch to technology, you talked about it a little bit already, Colleen, but what was it that was like, okay, that's why I want to go to technology?
I mean, it's just such a transformative tool, right? In the education system, a lot of people embrace it to an extent. And I could see a lot of ways that we could use this as a transformative tool. Our kids were coming in with more and more understanding of how to use technology tools just from the very get-go. And people would, in the classroom, be at a place where they only wanted to use it to a place that they were comfortable. And then by the time that I left, the kids were well beyond where most of the teachers were, to the point where technology was becoming impactful in the wrong way in the classroom, and teachers were trying to lock it down.
Okay.
And there's just a lot of red tape, and there's just a lot of people to train up. And you know, in the end, when people are in a classroom with kids, they get to do what they're most comfortable with, which makes sense. Obviously, there's a lot going on. And so I was, you know, just seeing the way technology could be powerful in that environment, and just my understanding of how it can continue to grow and evolve. And we kind of got to a standstill in some ways with at least a lot of the people that I worked with in the education environment, that I was like, let me just kind of see what else is out there. And I just gravitated towards the technology position because that's where that's how I left the classroom. And it felt like that was the right next move. For growth and like limitless innovation, really.
That's a cool perspective too, that you got to see it from the youth side, and now you're seeing it incorporated onto the business side of things.
Which is funny how not very different kids and adults are.
Oh, I'm sure.
It is actually interesting. Change is hard for everyone.
I was looking for a position or a career where I was going to have continued growth and have that the one constant of change. Like, we're always going to have that, and technology is going to always be improving. You'll always have that consistency, have the growth.
Get the thrill.
Yes, get the thrill. And it's like Price Engineering was, bought by another company, and you start to wonder, as all the other companies you worked with before kind of dwindling down to nothing. It's like, I've never really had to worry about technology. When you think of that, it's everywhere. You're always going to need it. It's not going to go away. So it's like you feel safe.
Right. Yeah. For me, I almost feel like it wasn't technology that sparked my interest first. It was 2W specifically, because I read through their job description, and it was all very entertaining, very casual, a very different voice. And as being in a marketing field, that sparked my interest, because I'm like, oh, this is what they use to portray their brand, which I thought was really cool. And it wasn't until I started digging into 2W, looking into the solutions that we provide, and I'm like, okay, technology is interesting. And I realized that, like you said, technology is something that's always growing. And being in a career that allows you to grow with it is something invaluable, I think.
That 2-minute video too. That when I was looking on the website to just figure out, what is 2W all about, I saw that video and I said, I want to work there. I'm like, I'm done.
Same thing with me. I saw the same
videos to come. I was like, yep, that's where I want to work.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like our slow season is still pretty fast. And that's, again, coming from the marketing side of things. So the sales side is probably a whole different level of busy. But and you'd much rather be busy and on your feet than bored at any given moment.
Exactly.
And we definitely
there's no boring here.
No. The time flies. Like, I just realized it's May 13th. I thought it was May 1st.
Right.
No. No. Time keeps going.
Yep. So when you both started, how did you approach the learning process for understanding our solutions and understanding technology in general?
For me, it was about the use cases. So not really what is the technology, but what is the problem that the solution is trying to sort of solve. Mm-hmm. And I don't know much about manufacturing, I didn't, which is our main industry that we work with. So for me, it was like, what do I know about manufacturers, or how can I learn about what the pain points are that they might have, that our solutions bridge that gap? And generally speaking, our solutions bridge a lot of gaps in a lot of companies. Yeah. And it's interesting to see how similar pain points and gaps can be from industry to industry and company to company. And so the more that I learned about who our clients were and what they were looking for and why we have the solutions that we have for them, the more I was like, well, this isn't even all that different than what I was part of in my former career, because it's just about growth. It's just about efficiency. It's about optimization. It's about continued flexibility, continued ability to do more with what you have. Mm-hmm. Once we kind of figured that out, once I figured that out, it was like, okay, we can figure out all the rest of it. Yeah. And it's ever changing, right? So I'm never going to understand every single piece of all of this, because by tomorrow, there will be something that changes. Yeah. So once you embrace that, it's easy to embrace that I will always be learning here or anywhere, really.
Yeah. And I almost think that's better to have, because if you come into an industry and you learn, and then you're stagnant for a long time and you have to regain those skills to learn again, like down the future. Now we never lose out on that because we're constantly in that mindset.
That's so true. And that's exactly what I experienced in education. Like, people were masters of their game. They knew how to do it. It was similar from year to year to year to year. And then you introduce technology and the whole thing changes. The game is a completely different game. Yeah. And that's, we won't have that here. We're never going to be on top. We're never going to be masters of the game, because the game just continues to evolve.
For me, coming in in a support role, it's like I wanted to see what would be the best way for me to support the sales team. So I kind of dove right in and there was a lot of listening. I was on a lot of calls with Colleen, just kind of learning what all is done and what they need from someone like me. So I think just diving in, self-learning, listening, trying to find out everything that I could so I could be the best supporter for the sales team.
And was your role a new role when you started?
I'm not sure.
I think there was a role like this, but then there wasn't anybody in it for quite some time, and you've sort of evolved it.
Okay, I was going to say, it's
from day one,
you kind of built it, you know, like you said, as you saw things that needed to be done, you took it on, type of thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what both of you said. One thing that I tried to keep in my head was to continuously ask questions, because there was a lot of things where, for example, John, our sales director, gives that solutions portfolio overlook when you first start. And I think it's literally on day 3 or something. Yes. And it's like an hour and 15 minutes long, and he is just talking at you in a good way about everything that we do here. And I remember, I had some sense of familiarity with Microsoft, but Epicor was all new to me. He did his whole speech, and I was like, huh? So luckily, everyone here was very helpful, and I was able to ask around, and I got questions. I asked John, obviously, right then and there, some of the questions, and that helped a lot, because if you don't ask questions, you're going to miss out on that opportunity. Exactly. And then you're 6 months in, and you still don't know what Epicor is or something, and that's going to hurt you. Were there any challenges that you guys faced when trying to learn these new skills?
I think it's always a balance, trying to understand enough about what the use case might be or what the pain point might be without having to know every technical detail, which is hard, because sometimes people just want to know everything about something to be able to talk about it well, to be able to provide something for somebody else. And we have a structure here which really benefits us to be able to have people who are they are masters of their domain, and we're able to rely on them to help us through, all right, if we understand that somebody needs a solution that we have, how can we help them see themselves in that solution? But then the next person takes it over to make it happen, right? And so for me, it's trying to find that balance between knowing enough to make sure that I can provide the right solution for the right person without having to know every single technical detail about what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, mine, I think, was the verbiage. hearing words like SaaS and then on-prem and environment, platform, and you're like, wait, what was that? Well, that kind of sounds like that. And, interchangeable words, or, you're hearing it from multiple people, but different words and it means the same thing. So just trying to, differentiate between the two and making sure that I understood. Because if I'm just a support person helping the sales team, I still want to know what we do and what their goal is. Instead of just, it's going to make this quote, not know anything about it. I want to learn, what I'm putting together. So
you do a good job of that.
Thank you. It was hard with a lot of the stuff. And then acronyms, which I'm not too afraid of acronyms.
So many acronyms.
being in the military, and there was acronyms all the time, but it's like new ones, and you're like, wait, what does this one mean now? And I have a book of all the acronyms.
It's that's like, the way to do it.
And now you can share with others. Yeah, so that's the helpful part.
Yeah, exactly.
John would kill me because as often as he goes through BANT, I probably still couldn't. I always forget N, I think.
Need.
I don't know. Need. Okay.
Need.
Yeah, so many acronyms.
Yes.
There are. Yep.
I would say, for me, one of the biggest challenges was, I would think that I understood something and understood it enough to consume it, but I couldn't regurgitate it to anyone. And I ran into that when, I would be talking with friends and family, and they'd ask something about Epicor and, what an ERP system is, and I'm like, oh, I know this, and then I would start, and I'd be like, does that make sense? And I remember doing this to my dad, and he was like, kinda. And I was like, okay, I gotta work on that more.
What does ERP mean, true. Danielle? ERP.
Enterprise Resource Planning.
That girl. Bing! Winner!
Yes. So I feel like there's a whole different level of understanding in terms of actually being able to understand what someone's saying, but also be able to explain it in your own words.
Right.
That's hard.
Is there so we kind of touched on this when you guys were giving your backgrounds, but is there any specific ways that your previous experience helped you in this tech industry? Or any transferable skills that you were surprised by?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, we're working with humans. So that was something I did all the time in education.
True.
And people need to see themselves in whatever it is that they're doing. And so for me, it was kind of a comfort in understanding that no matter the industry, they need reassurance. They need a relationship. They need to be eased into change. They need to know why it's going to help them. They need the big picture, which is a lot of what I did in education with the kids and with the teachers. So for me, just understanding that regardless of the industry, people need that relationship building. They need all of those pieces in order to move forward with an initiative or something different or some change. And so that was exciting because I feel like I'm good at that. I like doing it. So that was exciting for me to know that those relationships don't end when you're not in a classroom with kids.
Right.
Yeah, I think the big one for me was when I was the quality manager, I had 9 different locations that I dealt with. So there was a lot of structure that I built into my position to make sure, keeping everything where it needs to be and not losing sight of, I forgot to do that particular audit. Now we're going to fail.
Right.
And coming here, I'm working with 11 different people asking for various things and having that structure built in and being that way, I think prior to even working. I think I was like that as a child. Things need to be in their spot and have to have that structure. So that's helped a lot because, you prioritize, you learn how to prioritize, you find out when somebody needs something. Some people don't think to ask that, hey, you asked me to do this, but did you tell me how soon you need it?
Right.
So knowing that enables you to do that prioritization and structure.
Yeah, there was not a lot of overlap from the motorsports industry into technology, but the one thing that I did see was at the dealership, I was able to watch the innovation through the technological.
Oh, I like that.
I was just talking to Barbie. I was like, sometimes my mouth moves faster than my brain to pick up words.
She makes up some words.
I like it.
It's a Danielleism.
Yeah. Innovation in the vehicles, whether it was focus on safety features or anything like that, I was able to see that growth. And that was something cool because I witnessed that here, obviously, every day. Yeah. And one of my favorite things is watching something grow from nothing to something. And I was lucky because one of the prime examples that I saw here was the AI solution. Because right when I started, I feel like is when they were introducing it to employees. And so seeing the features that it had starting out versus now what it can do, it was really cool to see.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So did you guys see any cultural differences from previous industries to tech?
There's a lot less red tape here.
Yeah.
We are very flexible. We're very nimble. There's not as much of a hierarchical kind of pathway like there is in education, and there's just a lot of red tape in education. It's hard to get moving in a direction even if you know it's the right direction to go, and there's a lot of roadblocks along the way, and it makes things hard. So that for me, like the fact that if we want to make something happen, we just do it is crazy different and awesome.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is we have departments. So there's electrical and hydraulic, and there was not a lot of collaboration between those two, because once that project was done in one department, it would go on to the next. Here, you could be working with multiple resources on one thing in tandem. So it's kind of nice. And there was a lot of disconnect when you have something like that. Would be, Department 80 was electrical, Department 50 was mechanical. They kind of were like at odds with each other, because it'd be like, I'm waiting for you to get this done and I can't move on until you get that done. So I like the collaboration here and being able to have multiple resources working on something instead of them fighting over, I need to get that done right now. And so that is probably the biggest thing that I see.
I feel like for me, one of the biggest was, I feel like our team challenges each other more. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that further. I just feel like we are all looking to grow, all looking to push for further advancements, all looking to get to the next step. And that's really refreshing to be a part of. Okay. So looking back, what advice would you give to someone from a non-tech background and they're looking to make a career switch into tech?
I mean, I think what I learned is that no one ever knows exactly what they're doing, regardless of where you are. And so I feel like what's cool about the tech industry is that because it's ever evolving, like everybody's super vulnerable and open to not knowing something. And that's not something that I experienced before. So being able to say like, tell me more about that, or what do you mean by that? Or just the level of ability to ask questions and to not have to know everything. It's just the way of life here. And I think just probably in technology in general, because it's so quickly moving that unless you're the person that's doing the development, there's going to be extra questions to ask.
Yeah.
So I feel like just the level of vulnerability people have to say, tell me more. Like, I don't quite understand, or help me understand that. So it's never an awkward thing to have to ask a question.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I would tell someone not to be intimidated, because you think about everything in your life that you do for the first time, you always feel scared and like, I'm not ever going to be able to do it. And then after you learn it, you're like, that's such a piece of cake. Same here. It's like you have to not be intimidated, trust yourself, and then just dive in like I did.
True. For sure. Yeah.
I'm doing just fine.
I was going to say, like, no matter what, if you switch a position, you switch companies, there's always going to be a learning curve.
Yes.
So just choose the learning curve. You're either going to go towards an industry that you're going to be happy with for a long time, which we feel, or if you settle for something easier per se, shortened learning curve, you're going to be unsatisfied a little quicker. So
exactly.
Choose your hard. I've heard that before.
Yeah,
I think with lifestyle stuff, but so my advice is just do it. If technology is something that interests you, just try it.
No.
One of the things I would say is that you have to have the right disposition. If you're the kind of person that likes everything in line and you like things just so, and there are people like that and they're really good at certain roles. I think in this role, you have to be really okay with like something that's kind of gray, right? And you have to be okay with, kind of the pace of it and how dynamic it is. And if your disposition is okay with change, technology is a really good place for you because you're constantly evolving and growing. If that's not something that's comfortable for you, like one, I would say try it, because I think that's a good thing to get a little bit uncomfortable. But the other thing is like you have to know enough about yourself to know what, 2W Tech is a different kind of tech company because we are not just doing one thing. We're doing a multitude of things and we're continuing to grow our portfolio. So if you're not okay with continuing to do that learning curve, that's a little harder, right?
Yep.
But technology in general, as long as you have the disposition to be ready for change and learning, I think you'd be good.
Yeah.
Sign up.
Yeah. And on a smaller scale, like you can't even necessarily plan your day all the time because things will just be thrown at you. Yep. So I remember I was trying to make a routine like throughout the week for my first couple months here. And every time I did that, it got thrown off. And I got used to it. And now I know better.
Organized chaos.
Yes, exactly. Do you have any misconceptions you want to squash about the tech industry? No, that's a loaded question.
I think Helene, she's got a good one.
I do. There's a lot of people here that are women that work in this company, which is awesome and exciting. In my old world, technology was full of men. And teaching was full of women. So I think that's a misconception, is that somehow men are better wired for technology. I don't know. I think that any person can do this work if it's exciting for them.
Yeah. We're probably 50-50 here now.
Yeah.
Pretty darn close.
Yeah. That's cool to see.
No.
I always thought that within tech, no matter what position you were, you always had to have the same level of technical knowledge, which isn't true. As you think about it, it seems like common sense, but at the same time, I mean, coming into this, I was like, okay, I don't know as much as I should know, and I still have a lot to learn, but I don't need to get as technical as our IT staff or anything like that.
Right.
So I would say that's just something to keep in the back of people's heads, is you have to gain knowledge and you have to understand our solutions, and with any technology, you have to have a surface level understanding, but you don't have to get as granular with a lot of these technologies.
Agreed.
All right. Well, Barbie, Colleen, thank you very much. As always, if you listen to us and you like what you hear, like and subscribe. Otherwise, we'll be back.
Bye.
Okay.